You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB. Football Fever with News Talk ZB's voice of football, Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen.
Welcome into Football Fever, day later than normal, but we thought we'd give you the Easter break to ruminate over the football that you've seen over the last 3 or 4 days. Heaps going on. The end of the Wellington Phoenix women's season, the Phoenix men entering the home straight. There's international stuff to talk about and Kiwis playing overseas as well. I'm Jason Pine. Bonnie Jansen, as always, is here. Hello, Bonnie.
Hey, Piney, how are you? We're 6 points clear at the top.
Now, please try and remain impartial as we talk about the Wellington Phoenix.
Sorry.
No,
sorry.
But I get what you're saying, and I have spent a little bit of time, I must say, looking at the table and trying to work it out. It was good to see you in Wellington over the weekend. You decided with a double header here at Easter and some family members living here in the capital, you'd make a flying visit. Did you enjoy yourself down here?
Yeah, it was good. We spontaneous trip home and obviously got to see my teams play and 2 good wins. So, yeah, really good weekend.
Let's look at the men first. I want to get to the women second because we've got some awards to hand out. Bonnie and I have come up with our awards for the season. Not together. We haven't collaborated on these at all. I've just given Bonnie some categories and both of us have chosen our player of the year and that sort of thing. So that's to come for the women's team. But let's start with the men. 1-0 winners over Brisbane on Sunday. This was Easter Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff. Bojidar Kraev scored after 76 seconds. Every outfield player had touched the ball for Wellington in the lead-up, and Brisbane had one sort of, minor touch, which was a rebound off an attempted tackle. So what a start. When that goal was scored, did you think it was going to be one of those where the Phoenix would just cruise to a comfortable win?
I definitely felt like it, and obviously I'd made this trip down to Wellington and watching the Phoenix was top of the priority list, but here I was standing in the concourse getting my granddad a coffee and I missed the goal because it was so quick. But I just heard I was right behind the yellow fever and I just heard the crowd erupt and I'm still waiting in the line for the coffee, so I pull it up on my phone. But yeah, it definitely felt like that after they scored that goal, and it was a great goal, and after that the Phoenix definitely had the momentum, so for sure it was a great start.
Yeah, really nice finish from Bojidar Kraev. Sam Sutton got the nod at left back ahead of Lucas Kelly-Heald, and I kind of get the feeling that might be the way that Chiefy goes now for the rest of the season. I know Lucas Kelly-Heald's had a very impressive debut season, but I just wonder whether he might go for the greater experience of Sam Sutton and his ability to get up and down a little bit more. After that, though, it didn't open the floodgates, did it? And Brisbane actually had a lot of the ball and quite a few chances right across the game. It was never comfortable for Wellington. I don't think they'll look back on it with any great pride, really, as far as one of their greater performances were concerned. But they did have to grind it out, particularly when they lost their captain with 10 minutes to go, which wasn't ideal.
No, it wasn't. They certainly did have to fight for those 3 points, and I think that was the most impressive thing to come out of that game, is they're still, getting the points when they need. So yeah, it wasn't a performance that they would look back on, proud of, as you say, but yeah, it's got all the potential of a champion side, so that was really promising. But yeah, losing Alex Rufer, I think that was a bit silly from him. I'm keen to hear what you thought of that red card, but in my opinion, I thought just not needed, and it was definitely, I thought it was a red card, to be fair, and he just didn't need to do that with what's coming up.
I thought it was a red card.
Yeah,
I thought it was a red card. Yeah, and look, we're allowed to disagree, and there has been disagreement. I think, in fact, looking online afterwards, there seems to be real division over this. A lot of people don't think it was, and even afterwards, Chiefy said, where is Alex supposed to put his foot? You try and hover above it, and you think to yourself, okay, well, if you didn't have any skin in the game, if you were just watching a game of football and you saw that happen, would you, in other words, is your view being coloured by the fact that it's a Wellington player who's on the end of the red card? And this is where you have to be impartial, and you have to say, okay, and if it was any other player in any other game of football, would it be a red card? And I think it was a red card. I think he's brought his foot down with a bit of force on the back of a player who's on the ground. And look, I think, it's been downgraded to serious foul play from violent conduct, which by the match review panel, but it's still a one week ban. And I think that's probably about right.
Yeah, I think it's a really good call. And, I saw as well people, disagreeing on the call and not thinking it was a red card. I look back and I don't know if our listeners remember to the FIFA Women's World Cup last year when Lauren James for England she did a similar, maybe that hers was a little bit more harsh, but she also stood on a player who was on the ground, and I think from memory it was a 3-match ban, and
it was, yeah,
it was controversy around that as well. So I was, when it happened, it was right in front of where I was sitting, and you could just see Alex Rufer was very heated in the moment, even after the call, and there was a bit of a brawl going on between the players. So I think it was just in the moment. It was just silly, I thought, because of the game coming up this weekend, and we obviously need him. He's our skipper. So.
I do think Henry Hall made the most of it. I think he, the way he reacted to what was really, yes, there's downward force with a football boot on your back or the top of your leg, but I thought he made the most of it, milked it maybe a little bit. Anyway, the fact remains, red card given, a 1-game ban, and that's obviously problematic for Wellington as they head to a top-of-the-table clash with the Mariners, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But yeah, like I say, it's very, very hard. I mean, I think if the Phoenix had a real problem with it, they would have appealed probably, and they haven't.
Yeah, and you say that Brisbane Roar player milked it a little bit, but so would we, I think, if it was down the other end. And Houston Sellis did it, I don't know if you saw it, down the other end, and we got a free kick towards the end outside the box, and it was great play from him. That's what you love about football. You can kind of milk things a little bit, and I mean, to some extent, obviously don't go over the top. But yeah, I think it was all kind of part of what we love about football, and it's best case scenario that it's only one match for Alex.
So Phoenix held on, got the 1-0 win. That took them to 46 points. That is their equal highest regular season A-League men's points tally. They got that in 2014-15 as well, but that was in the entire season of 27 matches. So they've got 46 points from 23 matches this season. So one more in the last 4 games, and it'll be a new record regular season tally. Next up, the Mariners, Saturday night in Gosford, massive game. The Mariners play Melbourne City tonight as we record this. We're recording on a Tuesday. If they were to win that game, that would take them to 43 points, meaning that they could go back to the top with a win over the Phoenix on Saturday. However, if they were to lose tonight, and let's go with this hypothetical situation, Bonnie, if they were to lose tonight and then Wellington Phoenix beat the Mariners in Gosford on Saturday, the Phoenix would be 9 points clear with 3 games to go. So that would mean that they could clinch the Premier's plate at home the following Friday night against Melbourne Victory. Look, there's a bit of water to flow under the bridge, but, I mean, wouldn't that be a great scenario that going into the Melbourne Victory game on Friday week, the Phoenix would know that a point would earn them the Premier's plate? It's quite the scenario.
Oh, it's so exciting. I might have to book another trip back down to Wellington.
Maybe you should just relocate.
With that in mind.
You should just relocate down here.
I need the boss to approve, me working from the Wellington office next to you, Piney, for the next month or so, because I think that's, I'm just going to be doing trips up and back. But, very exciting for the Phoenix. Yeah, I just hope they can do it because, as we just discussed, it wasn't the prettiest performance on the weekend, but they got the job done, and that's all you need, really, at this point.
So the Phoenix now cannot mathematically fall out of the top 6. So they are guaranteed finals football now. They cannot be overtaken through any combination of circumstances. They cannot finish outside the top 6. They are also now 12 points above 5th placed Sydney FC, who have 5 games to play, so 5-3 to 15. So technically they could fall out of the top 4, but it seems very unlikely. So a home playoff now is almost inevitable. And it's been 9 years since Wellington last had a home finals match. So, that prospect is becoming more and more real by the day. The other thing that I noticed this morning, you might have picked up on this as well, is the Wellington, I think it's the home show. No, it's the food show, sorry. The food show, which takes place at Sky Stadium, had originally been scheduled for the weekend of May 24, 25, 26. Now, that has been moved because that is grand final weekend, which I'm sure at the start of the season, when these bookings were being made, they were saying, okay, well, the weekend of May 24, 25, 26, that's the A-League grand final weekend. I think everybody would have said, well, the Phoenix won't need that. We're not going to be talking about a home grand final. But the food show has now been moved. So I guess it's more likely now that there might be some action on the field at Sky Stadium that weekend.
Yeah, well, I was planning on heading over to Melbourne for that A-League All-Stars weekend with the Arsenal women's team, because that's obviously my team, and so I was planning that's that same weekend. So now I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, because we might be in the final down here in Wellington. There
is a lot of water to flow under the bridge, obviously, before any of this plays out. But as we've said, I think, several times on the podcast, nobody pre-season expected this. Nobody had the Phoenix outside the bottom two in terms of those who were making their pre-season predictions. So with a chance of the club's first ever silverware, the Premier's Plate first of all, in the next little while, it is a very exciting time to be a Wellington Phoenix fan. So next up, the Mariners away Saturday night, 7:30 New Zealand time in Gosford, then back home the following Friday against Melbourne Victory at Sky Stadium.
Football Fever with Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen.
Let's go to the Wellington Phoenix women, who wrapped their season, the 22nd of 22 regular season home games, Porirua Park on Saturday afternoon with a 2-0 win over the Western Sydney Wanderers. You were there, obviously, Bonnie. What did you make of it in general terms?
I just love Porirua Park. I think that it's so intimate, and it's the crowd's just unreal, and I can imagine for the players it also feels so good on the pitch. I was talking to Brenton, who is the Wellington Phoenix media manager, and he was saying that it's a real possibility that they can put up another stand on the other side and host some men's games there next season. So yeah, love that venue. And it was a great game. The sun was kind of out. It was quite cold, but good for the women to end their season on a high, I thought.
The first half hour, they totally bossed. In fact, I thought it was probably the best half hour of football I've seen from the Wellington Phoenix women pretty much all season. Couple of goals, obviously only one was in the first half, but Emma Main with both goals. That was quite funny, wasn't it? Mania Elliott went down injured and was sort of sitting on the turf out on the left wing side. As play was going on, they were waiting for a stoppage in play so that she could be attended to by the medical staff. But play carried on, and the ball finds its way out to where she is. Macy Fraser's got the ball, and she's looking to play a ball down the line to Mania Elliott, who thinks, well, I better get up. So she gets up, injured, has played the ball, puts in a cross with what turned out to be her injured foot, and it lands on the head of Emma Main with a diving head who opens the scoring. So I think Paul Temple said afterwards, yeah, we've been working on that. They won't mark you if you're down. But I mean, really, what a strange way to open the scoring.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it was, I thought Emma Main's, she played outstanding that game. I thought she obviously scored 2 goals, as we mentioned, but yeah, that finish was unreal, but so was that delivery from Mania. So, yeah, it was hilarious, really.
Yeah, it was. Mackenzie Barry captaining the side in her 50th game. She's the first player for the women's team to bring up the 50 matches. The injury to Kate Taylor was a bit of a worry with the Football Ferns games to come. I haven't heard anything about her being in doubt for those games, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. She had to come off after about half an hour with an injury. Awesome to see young reserve goalkeeper Amy Daniele make her debut at the end. You don't often see a goalkeeper come off the bench in a tactical sub, but good to see Amy Daniele get a debut for the team too.
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember playing her not so long ago up in the Auckland competitions, and she was very young then. So yeah, really cool to see how she's made it to this level, and she obviously got her call up to the Football Ferns with Bree Edwards being unavailable. So, really exciting prospect she is. And she made a great save when she came on as well.
Yeah, she did. It would have been, I think Paul Temple again said afterwards, he and his assistant Callum Holmes says, we better give her a professional debut before she goes into the Football Ferns camp. And so they did. I thought it was really a lovely moment when Riley Foster came off, and clearly delighted for Amy Daniele to get that debut. And as you say, she made a lovely save to keep it at 2-0. So what that actually led to was Western Sydney Wanderers missing the top 6. They were sweating on the result of crosstown neighbours Sydney FC and Melbourne Victory the following day, and Sydney FC just completely outplayed by Victory, losing at 4-0. Western Sydney were on the plane back to Australia when that was happening, so they would have got off the plane and seen the score and thought, well, that's our season over. Phoenix finished 8th, as we've talked about all season. Their home form was terrific. 7 wins and a draw from 10 games. Away from home, 2 wins and 10 defeats. So it really was the road woes that put paid to the Phoenix's chances of finishing somewhere near the top 6. Right, now let's award the Football Fever awards for the women's side for the season 23-24. Here are the awards we're going to hand out. Player of the season, Young Player of the season, Goal of the season, and the player who surprised you the most. And then we're also going to give you our 3 players who we think should be the top priority for the Phoenix to re-sign for next season. So let's start with player of the season. Who have you gone with?
Mackenzie Barry. She obviously got her 50th cap on the weekend. I think she's just been an absolute rock for the team in all of their seasons. But yeah, she's grown so much as a player. She's become a leader of this team, and you know, she's used her time in the Phoenix to earn her spot in the Football Ferns. So I think she's had a great season. I've
gone Mackenzie Barry as well.
Oh, look at us.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I looked around and I thought, look, she's the obvious one, right? She, as for all the reasons you've outlined, and the fact that she's brought up 50 games in the club's 54th game, so she's played 50 of the club's 54 games in their history, and 49 of those 50 games have been starts. You know, the only game she didn't start was when she'd been away with the Football Ferns, and they thought they might give her a rest, and she came off the bench in the second half. So yeah, I think Mackenzie Barry, by every metric, is player of the season. Young player of the season. I didn't define young, but no, what are we talking, under 21 or something like that? Who's your young player of the season?
I did think this when I was considering who to pick. I feel like you may have picked the same player. Macy Fraser. I don't know if we can consider her young, but I guess she is. She obviously had a great start to the season. I think she got a little bit maybe lost towards the end of the season, but she got her Football Ferns call up, and she's just an incredible talent, especially on the ball. She's got a few areas to improve, obviously, like her physicality being a big one, but yeah, definitely a player to watch. I think everyone would agree. Yeah,
I've got Macy Fraser as well. I don't think there's any. I looked around and thought, you know, who could potentially challenge her. I think Mania Elliott had a really good season, in parts, and it was good to see her finish with a good performance the other day. You look around and others have got debuts, the likes of Daisy Brazendale. I think she's got a very high ceiling, but Macy just seems to me to be the young player of the season by daylight. The best thing about her is that she's got 2 more seasons at the club, minimum. So we're going to get to see a lot more of Macy Fraser. So yep, she's my young player of the season as well. Goal of the season for you, Bon?
Well, it was tricky. I thought there was a close call between Macy Fraser's dead ball and then also Emma Mains on the weekend, that header that Mania Elliott put the ball in for that we just talked about. I thought that was a great goal. But my goal of the season was Annalie Longo's goal against Brisbane Roar. It was their first win in Wellington, I think, of the season, and she just kind of took the ball halfway between the box and halfway and took on a couple of players and scored this unreal strike at the top of the box. And just, it was her first, I think, proper game for the Phoenix, and she's coming back from the Football Ferns and injury. And yeah, I thought it was just all round great setting, great vibe, great goal.
Yeah, no, I had that one in my shortlist as well. And you're right, it earned Wellington a win. And yeah, Annalie Longo's debut was almost a bit of a fairy tale. Just actually, while we're talking about her, she was greatly missed at the back end of the season as well. When she suffered that injury and couldn't play the last half dozen games or so, I think it really told, not having her influence. But I've actually gone for Macy Fraser's dead ball. Nice. Yeah, I just think the spectacular nature of it, the genuine excitement afterwards from everybody, and the fact that it was part of a really impressive 3-1 win over Western United, who at the end of the season are well and truly entrenched in playoff football. I've gone for Macy Fraser's free kick, but yeah, Annalie Longo's goal was certainly an eye catcher as well. Player who surprised you during the season, what have you gone with here?
Again, had a few on the short list, but I've actually put down Emma Main. I've known her for years and I know how high her ceiling is, but I think the opportunities she's had with the Phoenix this year, and it hasn't been many, she's had to earn her spot kind of off the bench, and she's been injured and down with illness. So when she has had those opportunities, I think she's really taken them, and we saw that over the weekend, obviously, with her brace. But I think she's just such an exciting player. She's strong. She can finish. She can dribble with the ball. She's got pace, and I think she's going to be key for the Phoenix going forward, which we'll talk about soon. But I think she's probably next in line for a Football Ferns call-up.
It's an excellent call. She was on my shortlist as well, but I've actually gone with Zoe McMeekin because last season, I know in the first season of the Phoenix's life, she played pretty much every week. She played, I think, 13 of their 14 games in the first season, but then didn't really get much of a look in last season. In fact, just one start last season for Zoe McMeekin, and she could easily, given the imports that had come to the club and the positions in which they played and the other competition around, she could easily have fallen a little bit off the radar this year. But I thought she had a really, really encouraging season. 16 matches in all, 9 starts, 7 off the bench, and I just thought she brought an energy and a vigour that was always valuable. She seemed to be able to play anywhere. She did really well in her one-on-one matchups against opposition attackers, often quality opposition attackers who she was in charge of looking after. And like I say, I think she could easily have let her head drop after last season and at the start of this season with no obvious role for her at this club. And I thought she had a really, really solid season. So for me, Zoe McMeekin is the player who surprised me.
Yeah, I think she was a very hungry player, you could call it. And yeah, she never really dropped her head at all. And you could see that in some other players who were lacking minutes and opportunities. So yeah, I think that's a great call, Piney. And yeah, she's, again, one to watch for the future. I think she's still young, got some learning still to do, but definitely a really driven player who knows what she wants.
Just a word on Emma Main too. I thought she was really good too. And I would love to see her get an opportunity at Football Ferns level. You know, as you've talked about ad nauseum, the Football Ferns haven't been able to score goals.
Exactly.
So, you know, she got 5 this season. You know, it's a huge tally, but you know, it's not as though they could do any worse than give Emma Main a crack in the Football Ferns. She's not in this current squad that's about to play Thailand, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if she continues to do well at Liberty A-League level, that knock might come on her door, and I think it would be well deserved.
Exactly.
Right, let's go with the 3 players to finish. This isn't really an award as such, but really a look ahead to next season. If you're in charge of Wellington Phoenix women's recruitment, who are the 3 players that you would be going to first to open negotiations to re-sign?
Well, I think we've just talked about her, but Emma Main being one. I think she's grown up in Wellington. I've played with her through high school. She's now got her first taste of professional football. So I think, other clubs are going to be looking at her, maybe potentially a move to Auckland as well, with the Auckland FC, obviously not this coming season, but the season after. So I think keeping her is key. But those visa signings, very impressed with those. I'm not sure who made the complete call on those, whether it was Paul Temple or someone else, but Mariana Speckmeyer and Isabel Cox, I think, were just outstanding for the Phoenix, and we know New Zealand teams typically struggle to score, and these 2 players don't seem to have those issues, and they've really helped out this team this year and been key. So I'd love to see them back. Yeah,
though I've got those 2, Mariana Speckmeyer and Isabel Cox, simply because of the attacking output they gave the team. If you've got a striker who's going to score you double-figure goals, then it's a really big piece in your puzzle, I think. And Mariana Speckmeyer did that after the game the other night. She said that she would like to stay. It wasn't unequivocal. I definitely want to be here necessarily, but I think she's open to the idea of staying. Isabel Cox, I think, made a huge difference when she joined the team and just was able to create as well as score goals. The third one I've got is Kate Taylor. She's not signed beyond this season, and I just think to have that Kiwi core and a player who clearly has improved as a professional footballer, can play a couple of different positions, is probably the future in terms of the Football Ferns, may well be a future Football Ferns captain. I think I'd be sitting down with Kate Taylor and trying to extend her stay as well. So that's what I've got. So we're not too far apart, Bonnie, which is good to know that we're watching the same team week in and week out. They'll pack things away at Wellington Phoenix Women's HQ for a little while and reconvene with presumably the recruitment and negotiation with some of these players in the next little while.
The FFP with Piney and Bonnie.
Couple of things to tidy up before we go. 5 of these players now head down to Christchurch to take part in the Football Ferns Thailand double header. I think we'll call it 3 o'clock on Saturday in Christchurch, then 7 o'clock the following Tuesday, so a week tonight. New Zealand are 28th in the world. Thailand are 47th. Last time we played them was 2017 back then in Bangkok. A 0-0 draw, then a 5-0 win. I know what you'll want out of these games, and that's goals.
Don't you?
Yeah, I do. I do, but I'm going to let you have the floor on this.
Yeah, no, I think we have to win these games, and there's no reason why we can't win these games by several goals. Just with the run into the Olympics, it's not far away. We've got a really tough pool. I would hate for us to go to the Olympics and, I don't know if this is too harsh, but embarrass ourselves a little bit. I think we need to come out with a statement in this next window that we're up for, we're up for the challenge to be playing these tough teams. So yes, there's no reason with the squad that's been named that we shouldn't beat Thailand convincingly.
Be interesting to see how Jitka Klimkova plays it as well with a couple of younger players, and we've mentioned Macy Fraser, and she was excellent, albeit against limited opposition in the Olympic qualifiers over in Samoa, but she looks every inch a player who could play 50, 100 games for New Zealand. I'd love to see Jackie Hand have a starring role, but I'd like to see goals from people you don't expect to get goals. I'd just love to see somebody get I'd like to see Gabby Rennie get a hat-trick. She's back in Christchurch, her hometown, a place she played a lot of football growing up. Wouldn't it be great to see her, because she struggled to score goals for the national side in what is now more than 30 caps. Wow. As a striker, she should be scoring goals. And I want them to make it tough for Jitka Klimkova to pick her Olympic squad. That's what you want.
Yeah, I think just you even saying that, I'd love to see people who don't score goals, and the fact that we're, without singling out Gabby, but the fact that you're naming a striker as someone who doesn't score goals just shows where this team are at with their finishing. And again, not picking out Gabby specifically, but we need to be finishing, and there's no reason with the players that we've got why we shouldn't be. The ceiling is really high for this team, and it's now time that they find a click and start finishing. And off the back of their last 2 of the Olympic qualifiers, they had more time in and around the box. So, maybe me being really optimistic, maybe that'll help them.
Let's hope so. So game 1 is Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. Game 2 is Tuesday night, 7 o'clock. So let's hope the Football Ferns can put in a couple of impressive performances, score some goals, and give Jitka Klimkova some thinking to do ahead of her Olympic squad announcement. Just to finish, a few Kiwis playing overseas that I want to mention. India Paige Riley, who's part of this squad, of course, to take on Thailand, got a couple of goals the other day for PSV in their 3-3 draw with Alkmaar in their latest outing, and it was awesome to see a couple of Football Ferns squaring off in the Super League in English football. An elite for Aston Villa against Leicester City's CJ Bott, a 2-2 draw. Again, these 2 players they're probably on the same plane, heading to Christchurch to take part in the Football Ferns games against Thailand. For the men, Chris Wood scored for Nottingham Forest in their 1-1 draw with Crystal Palace. He's up to 10 goals this Premier League season. Nobody scored more headers than he has. He just continues to be a very, very good Premier League striker and may well play a big part in keeping Forest in the Premier League. Callum McCowart came on for Silkeborg this morning in the Danish Superliga, got the equaliser in their 2-2 draw. Joe Bell back playing injury-free, had a really impressive game for his Norwegian club Viking this morning. And Tyler Binden, just want to mention him at Reading, saw a stat during the week that there are 46 players who were born in 2004 or later, so in other words, who are under 20, who have featured in League One this season. And Tyler Binden, of those 46 players, has played the most minutes. So he's well entrenched at Reading, and will certainly be in the Olympic team for the New Zealand side later in the year, and obviously, hopefully on towards the All Whites as well. All right, Bonnie, well, that knocks another football fever on the head. I think we've covered most of the things we needed to. No more for the Phoenix women this season. We can put them to one side, but a pretty exciting month ahead for fans and those associated with the men's team.
Yeah, I just want to say as well, Piney, I think you've done an excellent job commentating the Phoenix women's games this season. You always shine a great light on women's sport, so I appreciate that. But also, I was at the game on the weekend, and I feel like our listeners should know, if you haven't been to Porirua Park, as I mentioned, the yellow fever are quite close, but they're also close to Piney in the commentary box, and I was confused but excited to hear on the weekend when they started saying, Piney, give us a wave. Piney, give us a wave. And Piney, mid commentary, obviously you're great at all things, manages to give the yellow fever a big old wave as he's running through the commentary. So yeah, just great. Love it from you.
I must confess though that they chanted that earlier in the season and I completely missed it. And I think I got booed on that occasion for not waving. So I'm pleased that I heard it this time. And it was a pleasure. And you're right about that crowd out there. It's a terrific venue for the women in particular, where, what did they have there, 1,500, 2,000 the other day?
Yeah.
But it sounds so good, doesn't it? And it's so compact and so, the atmosphere's amazing out there.
Yeah, I said to Brenton, the media manager, they've obviously got to get a screen out there because they don't have one that shows the replays, but they also don't sell any beers, which you kind of want on a nice Saturday afternoon watching football. But no, it is a great venue, and maybe had the Phoenix men not done so well this season, they could have been playing out there. They may have had smaller crowds. So it's great out there.
It is, and we wait to see whether it's used again in the seasons ahead. I get the feeling if they can do a bit of development, get themselves a liquor license, and perhaps put a couple of temporary stands up, it could be a new home for the Wellington Phoenix women and maybe the men as well. Excellent, Bon. All right, we're going to end it there, folks. Thanks for listening to Football Fever. Another episode hits your podcast feed next Monday.
Football Fever on iHeartRadio. For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.